The Chicago Bears add some more speed to the receiving core as they sign wide receiver Breshad Perriman to a one-year contract. What's going on, guys? I'm back with the Chicago Bears update videos, which I'll be doing throughout this entire year. So if you guys want more Bears content, be sure to subscribe to this channel. But in today's video, guys, I'll be talking about the signing that we made today, okay? A pretty unexpected signing, I would say. I didn't think this guy would be available from the Lions because he was probably one of the only actual weapons the Lions had on that receiving core, right? If you look at the receiving core right now, it is one of the worst receiving cores I've literally ever seen in NFL history. I'm not even exaggerating on that, okay? If you even compare this to the 2017 Bears receiving core, which had, Kendall Wright as our number one receiver, that Lions receiving core right now is probably equally as bad, if not worse, okay? They have no talent at all there, and they decided to get rid of some more talent that they had because they are the Detroit Lions, okay? This guy did struggle a little bit in camp, though, so that might be a reason why, but if you look at this guy's full career, okay, in the NFL, I think this is actually a pretty underrated signing for the Chicago Bears as a depth receiver, which is pretty much all he's going to be for the Chicago Bears. Breshad Perriman is not expected to be a number one, number two receiver for the Bears. If he was expected to be that, then I would actually be pretty worried, but that is obviously not the case right here, okay? We have A-Rob, number one. We have Darnell Mooney, number two. We have Marquise Goodwin, number three. We have, a couple other guys in front of him as well, so he's only going to be wide receiver number 5 at the best, most likely, which if that's his only role on this team, this is a pretty solid signing for the Chicago Bears because he provides a lot of speed. That has been the theme with every single Ryan Pace signing throughout this offseason for this receiving core, which does make a lot of sense because the Bears have one of the slowest receiving cores last year in the NFL, right? Like Darnell Mooney was our only burning guy on that offense, and it really showed in how we played, right? Like we had no explosive plays going down the field. I mean, obviously our lack of quarterback talent had something to do with that as well, but there was just so few big explosive plays that we had, so little, separation that our receivers actually got. But signing guys like Breshad Perriman, that is definitely going to fix that, okay? Because if you look at Breshad Perriman and his 40-yard dash, he ran this 40 like 5 years ago, but he is still as fast. I mean, if you look at his tape from last year, he's still flying down the field, but he ran a 4.35 40-yard dash coming out of UCF. And man, that is just insanely fast, okay? Anything above a 4.4 obviously is just one of the faster guys in the NFL, which is exactly what Breshad Perriman is, okay? The agility, the acceleration, the ability to start and stop on a dime, it is all there with Breshad Perriman. He's not a small guy either, okay? If you look at his height and his weight, so he's 6'2", weighs 215 pounds, so he actually has a pretty big, I won't say big in terms of NFL size, but it's still a pretty decent frame, right? And he runs pretty fast for the muscle and the weight that he has. Now, if you look at his career in totality, he was considered to be a bust early on in his career because he was drafted in the first round by the Baltimore Ravens, but he never truly lived up to that first round status. Okay, he was never that number one, number two receiver on any offense, but later on in his career, he kind of carved out a niche in this league as simply being a burning threat going down the field. He does struggle with drops here and there, so keep that in mind. He might not have the most reliable hands as a guy like A-Rob. Obviously, that's why he's not a number one receiver in this league, but that speed can definitely be an asset to any offense, okay? Because he is considered to be one of the faster guys in the NFL. If you look at his yards per reception, it's 16.5 throughout his entire career. That is an insanely high yards per reception. So it really shows you that he is that explosive playmaker, okay? The guy that you want to send going down the field on those 30, 40 plus yard explosive plays. That's what he's going to do in this offense if he does get the chance to do it. If you look at his other stats too throughout his career, so let me just run through his career pretty fast, but obviously early on he was with Baltimore, got 500 yards in 2016, 3 touchdowns as well. The next year he got injured, I believe, so he didn't really play much with Baltimore, unfortunately. Got released by them, went to the Cleveland Browns, where he did a little bit of stuff. Okay, he was pretty much just a depth guy there. Got 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, nothing really that special. By going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2019, he actually carved out a pretty nice role there. Okay, he had 645 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns, so definitely a career best with Tampa Bay. But then going to 2020 with the Jets, he didn't have as much success, but still had over 500 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns as well. So even though he's never lived up to that first round selection, I still feel like he's had a decent role in this league for the last few years, right? Like getting back-to-back seasons of having 500 plus receiving yards, 3 plus receiving touchdowns as well. And those were also on pretty bad football teams, right? Like last year with the Jets, I mean, they had horrible play all across their offense with Adam Gase as a head coach. The year before that, he had, a pretty dysfunctional offense in Tampa Bay. So he could honestly be a nice weapon for this Bears offense, even as a fourth, fifth option, if we ever have to use him. So for that reason alone, I do really like the signing, because you're getting a guy at a depth position that already has experience in this league, okay? And if you look at the Bears offense right now, like, there's so many fun personnel groupings that we could have this year in this Matt Nagy offense, right? Because we have speed all across the board, okay? We have guys like Marquise Goodwin. We have Darnell Mooney, who already had a fantastic rookie season last year. We have Tariq Cohen coming back eventually too. He's not going to be ready to start the season, but eventually Cohen is going to be back too. Damiere Byrd flies down the field as well. He's also a speedy guy. And when Justin Fields comes in there, he also runs a 4.4 40-yard dash. So if Matt Nagy ever wants to have a grouping of having only speedy guys on the field, right? Like only guys that run sub 4.4 40-yard dashes, he could do that, okay? And that's a ridiculous thing to think about. There's not going to be as many offenses in this league as fast as the Chicago Bears offense, okay? It's going to be a track team with the speedy guys that we have here. And we can really take advantage of some slower cornerbacks out there, right? Like, there's not going to be any team that has as many fast cornerbacks to keep up with all these speedy guys that we have. So it can make for some very fun, offensive play calls in this city if Matt Nagy decides to use them the right way, which is obviously a big if. We still don't know if Matt Nagy is actually a good play caller, but he has a lot of weapons to work with now, thanks to Ryan Pace. So let me know your thoughts on the signing down below in the comments. It's a pretty cheap, just a 1-year deal, so we're not really risking anything. He's only going to be a depth guy for us, but I feel like at this depth position, he could provide us with some pretty good value. So personally, I love the signing. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, but as always, bear down.